Eddie George, you are now going to be starring in Chicago on Broadway in January.
Yeah.
Is that true, Eddie?
Yeah, it is, man. Can you believe it?
And
Yeah.
the Billy Flynn role too. I mean, that's serious. That's a serious role you've got going on, Eddie.
Nah, this is the real deal. It's not junior high anymore. This is professional stuff, man. And I'm really excited about the opportunity. I had a chance to go up last year to go audition for the part, and how it all came about. I was at a show actually here in Nashville. They were traveling with the show, Chicago. I sit on the board for Chief Act Theater, and I jokingly said, you know what, I would do the role of Billy Flynn. And the artistic director says, okay, well, let me do a little checking around. You know, when somebody says that, you're thinking like, well, they're not going to do it. They're not going to follow through. Well, 2 weeks later, she says, well, I talked to Barry Weissler and the people in New York. They want you to come in for an audition. I was like, oh, wow, I don't even sing. So I had 2 weeks to prepare. Got the songs. I got the sides. I immediately went to my voice coach, and I started working on my voice in the songs. And I go up to New York, and I say, you know what? I'm going to go in as Billy Flynn. I put on my best suit, got a top hat, handkerchief, all of that. And I did the songs, and they went okay. But I think they felt I had enough potential to get it done to pull it off. And now here we are, you know, coming up on January the 10th through the February 28th. I'll be on a 7-week run doing Billy Flynn on Broadway, man. I mean,
Wow.
It's incredible, man. I mean, my wife, she's a singer. She's like, how did you pull that off? I hear you sing in the house. How are you doing this?
Yeah.
So it's amazing, man. It's amazing. You got to come check it out.
Hey, look, Eddie, you want to leave me tickets? I'll show. You know, right around then is the playoffs, Super Bowl, and Combine. But if I can fit that in, Eddie, I'd love to. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Combine is like February 28th, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Hopefully you can make it, man.
I'd love it.
Awesome.
Look,
Yeah,
Eddie,
awesome.
we Michigan people always support Ohio State people in all the endeavors that they do. You know that, Eddie.
I know you do.
You know that. And
how are you holding up after a couple weeks ago?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm curious.
I'm fine. I'm still standing. It's going to steal our spine. That's what the coach tells me. That's
Hey, you know
says.
what? I think it will. That's a dangerous football team, man. That is a very dangerous football team.
I appreciate the respect. I appreciate it. But I'll tell you what, your football team looks a heck of a lot more dangerous with J.T. Barrett at the controls.
Yeah,
Eddie.
they do. I think now it's a different rhythm with him at the helm. They can. What we've seen from JT is his ability to run the football, the read option, whereas Cardell wasn't as effective as a runner. You know, he wanted to throw the football, which is fine, but he doesn't have the same deep threat in Devin Smith on this team like he had on last year's team. So I think that kind of hurts his game, so to speak, because he can't distribute the ball to the receivers like he's capable of because it's tough for him. I think JT definitely brings a different dynamic. He's more explosive in the run game. Of course, he can throw the football. And when you can combine that with the running of Ezekiel Elliott and that nasty offensive line, I think now the offense is going to be lethal.
So what do you think Urban was up to in the early part of the year? Do you think Barrett might not have been physically ready to be the starter, or Urban thought Cardell should be the starter based on the way things ended last year? Or do you think
it was a combination of both?
Okay.
You know, when you look at it, we don't know the health of J.T. Barrett. I did go to camp, and he appeared to be healthy, strong. So I don't think that was really a factor there. I think he had to go with the hot hand. I mean, Cardell delivered a national championship trophy, had an epic run the last 3 weeks of the season, and we all know how that ended up. So you got to almost go with the guy that got you there. And, you know, once he started to struggle, you had someone that you could rely on. And just think about, you know, J.T. Barrett and what he had to go through. Led them all the way up to the Michigan game, got hurt, had to sit out for that run and deal with the fact that he wasn't the starter after putting up big numbers last year. The leadership. I mean, that kid exudes leadership, a commanding presence. Reminds me a lot of Troy Smith in terms of his leadership ability. And, you know, it speaks volumes about the kid when he can have that type of mindset and say, okay, I'll take the back seat and I'll wait my turn, whether it's this year, the middle of the year, it doesn't matter. He's mentally tough, and that's what you need at that position.
Eddie George, soon to be Billy Flynn in the Tony Award-winning Chicago on Broadway on January the 10th, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Is Cardale Jones a pro football quarterback in the making, do you think?
I think so. I think given the right system, the right opportunity, he has the talent to do it. I mean, we've seen him do it before. But what we're now saying is a depleted wide receiving corps that doesn't have a lot of depth there, and the system requires for him to run, do a lot of read options. I think if you get him under center, you get him around weapons with the right coach and the right system, I think he can be a solid quarterback in the NFL one day if he works on his craft as a quarterback.
What about the Heisman Trophy race right now, Eddie?
Oh, man.
What do you think about it?
It's a mix, man. I mean, obviously Leonard Fournette. I mean, you almost have to think it's his to lose. Well, with so many big-time games coming up in the end of October, heading into November, Ezekiel Elliott still has fresh legs. He hasn't been run a whole lot. He capped off a 275-yard run game against Indiana. But with games coming up against your boys, Michigan State, possibly the Big Ten championship game, he can rule off 3 games where he can probably sneak in there and get it. And, Leonard Fournette still has to see Alabama. And that's going to be an interesting deal there. So I think it's still starting to take shape. You can still look at Trayvon Boykin out of TCU, who's having a tremendous year. There's several other guys you can look to. But right now, Leonard Fournette is clearly the guy in the lead for the Heisman at this point in the season.
Well, the discussion right now is Leonard's definitely not going to see his senior year at LSU in the same way you did in Columbus. And Adrian Peterson said that he knew he was ready for the NFL before he was eligible for the NFL. And people are thinking Leonard Fournette is right now, maybe Elliott, certainly coming into this season was ready for the NFL. Mm-hmm. When did you know? Because, I mean, you ran into one of the most grown men ever in the history of the National Football League twice a year, or sometimes 3 times a year, in Ray Lewis. When did you know you were ready for the next level, Eddie?
Honestly, I wasn't ready to my senior year. I mean, physically, I was always big and strong and fast and all of that, but there were nuances of the game that I needed to understand prior to going to the NFL. It's a different deal. The NFL is the margin of error is so small. You've got to know how a blocking scheme works. You've got to understand the structure of a defense, like a 4-3 or underset, overset, where the blitzes are coming from, how to pass block. The biggest thing with the running back is not how you run in between the tackles or what you do with the football, but more or less what you do without it. You got to be able to pick up and identify blitzes. You've got to be able to have the proper technique when picking up a blitz. You got to be able to catch out the backfield. You got to be able to chip. You got to be able to be a smart guy and think and react when things go wrong. So based off of that, it took me a while on the collegiate level to pick up the speed, the language, to identify to really slow down for me. I didn't start till my junior year. But when I look at Leonard Fournette, he's clearly there. I mean, he can run over you, he can run around you, he can do whatever he wants to do. But in my opinion, Ezekiel Elliott is probably the best back coming out this year because he can do it all. You look at his game without the football, Rich, he's a violent football player. He loves to block. He can pick up the blitz. He's a very smart, intuitive player, knows how to set up his blocks. I had a chance to talk to the running back coach. He said that, one play against Indiana where the guard or the nose tackle was scraping over the top based off of his position in the backfield. He said switch into a different position so he wouldn't scrape over the top. I mean, just little things like that lets me know that he's ready for the next level. You have to be able to do that if you're going to have a successful career as a running back in the NFL.
Eddie George joining me here. A couple more questions for you. Last time you were on was last October. The Titans were in the midst of a 2-14 season where you were wondering what the direction of the franchise was. What do you think about the state of the Titans franchise right now, Eddie?
I mean, I think the franchise itself is stable, but the product on the field is not getting any better. I have to be honest. I mean, watching the game last week, they've lost too many games where they should have won. And, when Ken Whisenhunt got this team, they were a 7-9 football team with pretty much the same talent. Get rid of Jake Locker, in comes Marcus Mariota. A lot of fanfare, a lot of excitement around the city, around the team, but we're seeing the same results. They're not able to finish games. They're lacking that mental toughness, or that killer instinct, so to speak, to finish off those type of games. So I'm curious to see which direction this organization is going to go after this year, because it's tough to have a great deal of morale when you're losing every single week. And, you have a good defense to build off of, but the offense is still lackluster, not putting up points, can't finish off drives. You can look at the numbers and hang your hat there, but there's a killer instinct that's missing with this football team. And the organizations are going to have to really take a hard look at, who they're going to, leave the keys in for this team to be driven to success. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen there.
Eddie, I just wanted to say this before I let you go. Congratulations on this opportunity you have here. I'm proud of you, man. Because look, I love what I do and and the people that I get to meet, and they're special people. You're one of them. And I see so many guys who retire and don't know what to do next, and so many of them are afraid to step out of a comfort zone. And you are doing that. You went, and this is a dream come true, being on Broadway for so many people.
Yeah.
And I know that in your previous profession, it's wrong to say break a leg, but now it is.
Yeah,
now it's fine.
Break several legs, right?
That's right, Eddie. Now,
and, I'm excited, man. So hopefully a year from now, I can come on your show and maybe I can sing some songs for you.
Anytime you do that, Eddie, come back in here, and I look forward to bring your Tony with you when you come. Okay?
Hey, I will. I'll definitely bring it for you, no doubt.
Okay, that's Eddie George here on the Rich Eisen Show at Eddie George 2727.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.